let's get into it.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to see you all. And
Oh, hold on. Let me. What? It isn't 180? Damn, that's pixelated.
we are here
They need to
to
get a better
kick
camera.
off what has, at this point, been an informal effort, which is working with Congress to help us combat fraud. So, as you know,
Every single congressman and Senate member, or anyone inside the government should be working on this. It's a bipartisan issue, man. Both sides should easily be working on this. Again, it's really not that hard to see why. Again, it affects everything, and it's just stealing money from the taxpayers. And if anyone considers this like, oh, this is a Democrat thing, this is a Republican thing, they're fucking retards.
when the President of the United States started the Fraud Task Force and really set the federal government to taking a whole of government approach to the anti fraud issue, that was mainly an administrative thing. That was something we were working with our colleagues at H&HS, at DOJ, at all of the various agencies.
And again, what started all of this was simply Nick Shirley making a video in Minnesota. Really, that's what kickstarted this whole fucking thing. That we got a fraud task force, and hopefully saving billions of dollars, I hope, and hopefully making this a more widespread and known issue that this is happening on almost every single level of the government, and we should be working towards to stopping it.
Of the federal government and trying to root out fraud. And I'd remind all of you and remind the American people and remind what these congressmen and senators don't need reminding, which is that fraud is really a dual victim crime. The most obvious victim, of course,
Is of course the taxpayers.
the American taxpayer, who
Exactly.
has their hard-earned tax dollars stolen from them.
Yeah. So if I pay thousands of, gonna be unfortunate, probably tens of thousands. If I pay tens of thousands in taxes, and it just goes towards a random fucking illegal alien or a random migrant who set up a shop to steal money and again taxpayer money from me, uh, I would lose I'd lose my patience quite fast, and I'm pretty sure most other people would. Because again, they're here, they're stealing money, and why the fuck should they be here? They should be immediately deported, in my opinion, executed. But that's for another day.
To enrich people
Hopefully, sometime in the future, these people will get tried.
who are violating our laws and taking advantage of our country. But I think more profoundly and more sadly, the second victim of fraud are the people who benefit from programs that the American people have set
Yep.
up in their generosity and in their kindness of spirit, and those programs don't function as well or don't even have the resources necessary to work.
Yeah, they simply take the good name of these good institutions, and they basically launder it through their own like shitty nefarious purposes, and it comes out tainted. It comes out not the same. So now people have a lot less trust in these institutions.
Because they've been stolen from.
And if they want them shut down, if you get enough people to vote for that, they will shut these institutions down, and they will unfortunately not benefit the Americans who actually need those institutions.
By fraudsters. I think an example that is particularly close to my heart because we have a 2-week-old newborn at home is a program that we set up through the Medicaid program to actually provide high-quality health care to new moms.
Now, I'm actually, well, I don't think he's lying, but I think being the vice president, he gets little bit more than Medicaid.
And to newborn infants. To people who can't afford high-quality health care, we,
For example, a fully dedicated task force, which I assume includes multiple doctors and
as a generous nation,
professionals.
ensure that they have access to the resources that they need. And yet, we have, working with DOJ and others, we have identified, prosecuted a number of cases of people where they have.
There needs to be hundreds more, if not thousands more. Like Trump needs to bring this issue to a almost. I was gonna say global, but you probably like even the U.S. president doesn't have that much of a reach. But you should definitely bring this up to like broadcast this on every single like mainstream media platform, because he does have the power of being the bully pulpit. and he should again broadcast this, make it a huge known issue. And what'll happen is if all the states work together and start immediately, confining and restricting, and how do I say this? Basically, ringing out all these fraudsters, it will drastically decrease. They will get scared, and if let's say you could also make a reward program, whereas hey, you're a fraudster. Oh, all right. Well, if you give me 10 fraudsters that are even higher than you, I'll let you go free. That way, you save the minnow and you get 10 big fish. I'd be willing to do that.
Taken
And why? What will that do? Well, simple. It will result in less money being taken away from the state and federal governments.
from this program, not provided an ounce of service to a new mom or a young baby, and enriched themselves by literally taking money from the medical care of newborn infants. This is despicable behavior, and it's something that we've allowed to go on for too long in the United States of America. I'm very proud that you could not just look at these sort of qualitative stories about what's going on, but we can actually measure the success of the fraud task force, working with Andrew Ferguson and with Steve Miller, two.
The unfortunate thing is, I don't think a lot of states would be willing to take part in this operation as well. Not because they uh, distrust it, but well, I guess there's a little bit of that, but because they don't want to give the Republicans who are in charge a W. They'd rather see thousands of people suffer rather than giving the Republicans a W. And by the way, when I said states, I mean, of course, unfortunately, blue states. And I think it's absolutely retarded. We need to vote these retards out of power, because why would I, as an American, want my state to actively work against my own best interests in not? Oh, let me take a step back. Why would I not want my state to work with these people to help get my money back in case it was stolen by fraudsters? It, like, why?
Of the great all-stars of the Trump administration, we have been able to identify $230 billion of fraud.
If they found 230 billion, think of how much more there is that is still unaccounted for. And why aren't we seeing more of this? Where was this before? I mean, e- everyone knows, like a few years ago, everyone was making jokes about how the government was getting frauded and we were wasting our money and most stupid things, and then everybody could take money out of the pot. I don't understand why it was so easy to set up this fraud task force before, or right now, when we could have done it before.
Just since the fraud task force was set up, and that's frankly by conservatively estimating it. Andrew and I had a meeting in my office last week, and he said, do you want to estimate it conservatively or do you want to estimate it aggressively? And I said, well, I kind of want to estimate it aggressively, but then all you people will criticize us. So let's estimate it conservatively so that we can give the American people the most rock-solid explanation of how this task force is working to protect their money. We've been able to stop $56 billion in fraudulent payments that would have otherwise gone to fraud.
I want to see more cases of people being brought up and tried for treason and then being executed. And I think those cases need to be held in public to again make fraudsters like them fear for their lives and stop doing it.
Fraudsters rather than to the people who need them. And in the process, we've saved, obviously, the American people a lot of money. But as much as we've done and as much as we've had great successes, and this brings me to my final point before I kick it over to Andrew, this effort will fundamentally always have a limitation unless our colleagues in the House and the Senate are working with us. We don't want the next administration, whoever, God forbid, you're going to have President El Sayed in 3 years.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that guy like won like the primary in some place. I forgot where. I know very little of it, but apparently he's a guy from Muslim. I could easily be getting this wrong, but yeah, I'll just ignore that topic. topic for a different day.
We don't want him to undo all the incredible work that we've been doing.
But it's not just him. We don't want anybody undoing like this fraud task force. Like obviously, you should hold anybody who's in charge of this accountable and make sure they're actually doing what they say they're doing. But like to get rid of a department like this, like it would be stupid. And I thought the exact same reason for Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency. I think it was absolutely retarded that we got rid of that.
When we've been taking
Because these two groups actually work pretty similar.
out the fraudsters and saving the American people money. And in order to make this really work, we need our colleagues in Congress to really codify some of this stuff to make sure that it becomes law. And again, this is the sort of thing where, while I see only Republicans surrounding us today, we really have been able to work in some cases with Democratic governors and Democratic attorneys generals on the anti-fraud task force. And we would love, I'm not necessarily holding my breath, but we would love to work with Democrats in Washington to codify some of the anti-fraud actions that we've taken and to take it to the next level.
I'm pretty sure John Fetterman would be uh, one of the guys who'd be easily be willing to work with them.
A few things that we really need to do and that we can't do at the federal government without the cooperation of the Congress. And the first that I would say the most
I'd argue, I'd argue you can. Maybe obviously there's going to be some restrictions, but if you're being honest, you could actually just ignore those restrictions and just benefit the American people and just say, hey, we think this is actually a big issue and this needs to get solved. So
important of these is data sharing. So when we've looked at the anti-fraud efforts that we've taken, one of the weirdest and most difficult parts of this is the black box that exists around certain state programs. So for example, the SNAP program, which provides food resources to low-income people, it quite literally feeds hungry moms and children in our country, something that is very important and that I know every person at this table supports. We know that there is a lot of fraud in the SNAP program. We know that there are illegal aliens who benefit from the SNAP
yeah, and there's an easy way to fix this. All the states that don't have tight restrictions on this, who like, I guess maybe not tight, but don't vet whatsoever, just simply, hey, either you lose all federal funding or you actually start making some restrictions and start holding people accountable who are abusing this system. Otherwise, oh, there goes all your federal money.
People who have no legal right to be in the country. We would like to stop that. But I think the American people would be shocked to learn, because I was certainly shocked when I learned it a few months ago, that when we send tax dollars to the states to administer the SNAP program, we have no visibility into who is ultimately getting those benefits. In other words,
I think that if that's true, I think that's quite retarded. If you send federal money anywhere, you should have full visibility on what that federal money is going towards, because everyone inside the United States is paying for that. We should easily have a right to see what it's going to.
if the state of California,
And keep in mind, these are states that are using this money. It's not like some top secret federal government program that involves the military. It's not nearly like that. This is like in this case, in this context, it's literally just going towards SNAP.
those food stamp benefits to an illegal alien, to a violent criminal, the federal government has no visibility, and sometimes the states themselves have no visibility. So we need to work with Congress, and we need some legislation that would actually force some data sharing between
The thing is, though, you honestly you don't need to make new laws. You just need to be you just need to actually enforce the laws you already have.
the state governments and the federal governments. We need to know where your tax
At least in my
dollars are going.
opinion.
And if the state of California or the state of New York isn't going to tell us, we need Congress to force them to tell us. And I think that's the first and most important thing.
No, just take away all their federal money or all their federal funding. It's that easy.
That we would like to do. The second is that we would like to see stiffer penalties for fraudsters. One of the
Yeah, I 100% agree with this. There should be death penalties handed out left and right.
things I said at the very beginning of the task force is that I was shocked.
Especially foreign people. Especially because if they just come here and abuse and fraud and or cause fraud for the Americans here, what the fuck are we doing? They're supposed to be here and actually be super patriotic and actually help our country, and that includes financially.
Shocked by how often we would just let low-level fraud go. Like,
Yeah, and this shit is actually retarded. So if you steal like $3 million and you get a 6 month sentence, of course any criminal's gonna take that. Well, you'd be retarded not to.
$1 million of fraud, that's a lot of money. A person who had enriched themselves to the tune of $1 million, sometimes we wouldn't even prosecute this stuff. And even when we do prosecute it, we are limited by the penalties applied. The most
Yeah, there needs to be way harsher penalties. Just change the penalties. Change it to easy. Minimum of 30 years. And now I don't want to include the maximum as a death penalty because I think maybe we could go even one further, but
important thing that we can do in
minimum 30 years in jail.
prosecuting fraud is to make sure that the people who engage in fraud actually suffer some real penalties. And so we would love to work with all of you and see some stiffer penalties.
And just start making executive orders to punish these people who get off scot-free. And what I mean by that is, I mean like the ones who don't give us the names of the really big fish and just get away scot-free without doing anything to help stop this.
For the people that we're successfully prosecuting. We are throwing a lot of people behind bars, but we're limited by some ways. In some ways,
Yeah, you threw 1,000 people behind bars for a few days. I mean,
by
that's
the
not going to do
statutes that
anything.
exist, we'd like to change those statutes and actually make it
I won't even call it a slap on the wrist.
harder for people to commit fraud and make sure that when they do commit fraud, they go to jail and they go to jail for a long time. And finally, we need a little bit of money, not a lot of money, and frankly, we're saving way more money than we're taking in, but the fraud task force it involves every single agency of the federal government. Every single cabinet secretary has been great, and I want to give a special shout out to some of our all-stars: Bobby Kennedy at H&HS, Kelly Loeffler at SBA, Brooke at the Department of Agriculture. Just, we've really had a whole of government. Our soon-to-be new Attorney General, Todd Blanche, has just been amazing to work with, and I know other people will say more about that. But we need a little bit of resources, because while we're saving the American people billions and billions of dollars and we're not spending very much, we need a little bit more appropriated to expand this fraud effort. I think we'll
I really hope they don't expand it too much because otherwise it'll probably just become another bloated department.
save even more money in the process. It's the sort of investment that, unlike most of the money you guys spend, it never.
I think it'd actually be best to keep it like 100 people or less for these departments. For example, like Doge only had, I think, around like 20 people, and they're saving billions. And then this task force seems to have like, I'd assume, around like 50 people. I definitely want to keep it low. That way, it doesn't become overexpanded and, like I said before, bloated.
Comes back to DC.
Because if what they're saying is true, they're getting quite a lot done with just that few of a people.
Dollar you give us comes back at least 5 or 10-fold. So it's a.
Or I'd be willing to do this. I'd be willing to say, all right, you can hire 400 people. However, you have to meet this criteria, and I want, like, let's say they're working on fraud. I want every single fraudster found and obliterated. I don't want to see any one of these fraudsters not behind bars.
Good investment, and it's the sort of thing that we need to see happen. But without further ado,
And it has to be during like a reasonable amount of time. Like I'd say a year is too much. I'd say 6 months. 6 months. I want every single fraudster found and behind bars. 30 years.
I want to kick it over to our amazing co-chair of the task force, Andrew Ferguson. You see him on TV. He's amazing, but most importantly, behind the scenes when he's not on TV, he's doing amazing things for the American people. This whole thing would not work and would not work as well were it not for Andrew's hard work. So great job. Great to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and welcome to all my friends from the Senate and from the House. We're very pleased that you're here. I want to thank President Trump for creating this task force and assembling us here today. He is the first president in American history to take this fraud issue, which is an existential crisis for the American Republic, seriously, and none of this would have been possible without him. And second, the Vice President. The only way to confront fraud through the whole federal government is to have the guy that sits atop the rest of the federal government in charge of it. Nothing that this task force has accomplished. And the Vice President just read a lot of the amazing accomplishments of the task force, the whole federal government.
There needs to be more. There needs to be a lot more accomplishments. For example, I want to hear specific names of people who were caught and their sentences. And if you got Al-Shabaab, who stole $10 million and only received a 6-month sentence, I honestly want this entire task force. You know what? I'm not gonna say gone because they can't really control the sentences, but I want the judges who give these people these light sentences to immediately be tried for being an accomplice, and of course disbarred.
Is possible without the leadership of the Vice President of the United States. Fraud is not just about the numbers. We hear about the big numbers, we just heard them today, but fraud hurts real people. It hurts all of us by taking our hard-earned money out of our pockets and putting it into the hands of the most reprehensible people in this country. And second,
Yeah, these people are just pieces of shit who don't only care for themselves and very close people around them and will do nothing but enrich themselves. And they have no regard whatsoever for the people that they hurt or will hurt.
it hurts real people in specific physical ways. The best example I have of this involves skin substitutes. Fraudsters, up until this year, were performing unnecessary surgeries on elderly Americans and
Oh yeah, and that's another thing too. And it's not just the fraudsters that do this. I can almost guarantee you that there's a lot of pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies who will perform unnecessary procedures to get more money. I think that should definitely be looked at as well.
hospices and nursing homes, because they would then submit those claims to HHS, and HHS was reimbursing those claims to the tune of billions and billions of dollars a year. Fraud doesn't just hurt us all in our pocketbooks, it physically is maiming real Americans, and that's what this is about. It's not about the numbers at the end of the day, it is about protecting ordinary Americans from the worst of us. The second thing about this fraud effort that is
I wouldn't even consider them us. I definitely wouldn't. Again, a lot of these people are foreigners. A lot of these people are foreign actors.
so important is that it is about restoring social trust in America. All of the programs that the fraud effort has focused on were set up for a high-trust society. The Vice
Yeah, they were. But unfortunately, we lost that high trust society quite a few years ago. But it's basically gone. It's done. So now we need to have a really harsh turnaround. Obviously maintain course, don't turn too far, but we need a harsh turnaround and actually crack down on this.
The President was just explaining the difficulty in obtaining data to fight fraud. When Congress was creating these programs, some of them almost 100 years ago, we didn't expect that these programs were going to be attacked by fraudsters to the tunes of billions and billions of dollars a year. We expected, because that's the America that we were, that everyone would play by the rules, that the money turned over to help our friends.
Well, you kind of knew that everyone wasn't going to play. There had to be a little bit of vetting, like at least a little bit. Well, I'm guessing at first there was obviously a little bit of vetting, but then hey, we live in a high trust society, we should be able to handle this, and then people took advantage of that.
Friends, our families, and neighbors would be made available.
So it's kind of easy
only
to
the
see the
people
path
who
that went
really
down.
needed it. And that is just not true anymore. And so this effort is not just about protecting our programs, making sure that fraudsters don't bleed them so dry that they cease to exist. It's also about restoring social trust in this country. And so with that, I want to talk about two of the things that I think Congress can do to help us address both of those problems. The first
Yes, name specific things that they can do to help. I mean, if it's quite reasonable and cheap, I'd say hell yeah, go for it. And I'd vote anybody out of office who didn't want to do this, because these are, again, this is a simple issue that shouldn't divide Republicans and Democrats. They should both be working towards this common goal.
is on social trust, and the Vice President touched on this just a minute ago. People commit fraud against our programs because it is relatively easy. And one of the
Yep.
Reasons that it is easy is that the punishments associated with much
Is so fucking low. It's so minimal. These people get just not even slaps on the wrists in many cases.
of the fraud are relatively low. We have seen what can happen in America when you really vigorously enforce the laws. Just take the last year and a half in this country. Violent crime is at an all-time low, and that's for two reasons. Number one, thanks to President Trump and Stephen Miller and others in the administration.
If you're tough on crime, then there's less of it. I mean, think about it. You don't even have to look at statistics. Do you think, let's say you rob a candy store. Would you rob a candy store if it meant, let's say if the punishment was a fine of 50 cents and the candy bar is like $5? Would you do it? Or, and there's of course the potential chance of getting caught. Or, would you rob a candy store if the minimum sentence would be death penalty? Fuck, almost nobody would want to steal a candy bar from that store. And so, what does that correlate? It means the harsher sentence you give for this crime, the less people are gonna commit the crime. I mean, it's pretty simple.
The border is sealed and the
It's quite
criminals are
easy
not
to
coming
see
here
and
anymore.
understand.
And number two, thanks to
Again, you don't have to be a genius to figure this out.
Todd Blanche and the men and women of the Justice Department, we are vigorously enforcing our criminal laws.
Like Bukele did, the one good dictator. I mean, he proved you can easily incarcerate your way out of the problem.
And making sure that people who commit crimes suffer the consequences. That has to be true for the fraudsters. Every single person who considers raiding one of our agencies and taking money out of our pockets needs to think long and hard about what might happen to them if they are caught. And under this Justice Department, they will be caught. And so we want to work with
I want more people caught. And again, I want not new laws, but I want executive orders to give these people life sentences. I want them in jail forever.
Congress to dramatically increase the sentences associated, even with low-level frauds, to incent both.
Yes, yeah. Again, though, like I said before, or like I was talking about before, even though you still use minnows to catch the big fish, you still want to get the minnows.
The Justice Department to
Why? Because those minnows can easily grow up.
Prosecute all fraud all the time, and to make every fraudster
And that's not
think
the only
long
reason.
and hard about whether it's worth facing a long time in jail before deciding to raid our programs. And then the second thing that we need to focus on has to do with another thing that the Vice President talked about, which is data sharing. Fraud is easy because data is difficult to get, and data is the enemy of fraud. One of the things that the Vice President
I definitely agree. I mean, like you saw at the Nick Shirley videos, the data was quite public and was readily available. I wouldn't say it's easy to find, but it was readily available. And they saw that and just immediately knew, hey, this seems like it's bullshit. Let's go in there and find out. Yeah, that's definitely some bullshit. Like, what was there? Like 50 different like healthcare facilities all in the same building? Like, are you fucking kidding me? And there's no nurses around. There's just offices.
The President has accomplished using this task force is that almost all of the agencies are now
Every single person in that building should have been arrested.
using
Without a
automated
doubt.
AI-driven tools to find the fraud before the money leaves the agency. But the only way that works is if we have data. And right now, data sharing is difficult, and for a lot of our programs like SNAP, which is an incredibly important program that we want to protect in this country,
Sorry, I'm
like the Vice
tired,
President
man.
was just explaining, states don't have to share data with us in order to participate in
They should. They definitely 100% should. If it's federal money going towards that, then they should immediately do that.
the program. Data sharing should be a requirement for participating
Exactly. It should be a requirement.
in these programs because
And there should be no exceptions, at least for the state, anyways.
that will unleash the power of American AI ingenuity and innovation in these agencies to stop the fraud before it happens. Because once it goes out the door, it's very difficult to get back. The pay and chase doesn't work. And so the way you stop fraud,
Not to mention, it's not like once it's gone, it's not financially available to get it back because you'll end up spending more money to get that money that you lost.
is you keep Americans' hard-earned money in the agencies unless it's going to someone who actually needs it. And for that, we need data. We need data to make sure fraudsters don't get it, non-citizens don't get it, and the only way for that to happen is if we have data. And the easiest way for that to happen is not through rulemakings, it's not through guidance, it's Congress stepping up and saying, if you want to participate in these programs, if you want access to America.
What the Republicans need to do is, so what they do, the reason why a lot of these bills don't get passed is because they include a bunch of other things in the bill. And that's like, for example, all this it's actually a common tactic the media portrays as well. Let's say there's a million, we'll take an example. This is obviously false. $1 million to research on cancer for kids. Well, it gets denied, and now the media complains about it. Oh, this party, such and such, doesn't want $1 million to kids. Well, also in that bill, it also we'll take an extreme example for the left on why they might veto the bill. This it made transing kids illegal. Well, they don't want that, so they're just gonna veto it.
American taxpayer dollars, you have to share data so that we can fight fraud.
And quickly to relate to that example, I mean, most Democrats do feel like kids shouldn't be trans. It's just that a lot of their voting base, unfortunately, thinks that.
Any state who doesn't want to share data, we should learn a lot about the leadership of that state. If they want to protect fraud more
Yeah, I
than they want to
definitely agree
protect
with what he said.
ordinary Americans, something.
Yeah, a lot of these people, a lot of these heads and officials don't want this getting out. Not only will it hurt their public image, but a lot of times, I guess I shouldn't say a lot of times, but I reckon in some cases they even participated in themselves.
Really rotten is happening in that state.
And they for sure as hell facilitated it.
So those are just two of the things that we want to work with Congress to accomplish here under the Vice President's task force. And with that, I'll turn it over to Stephen Miller.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your leadership on this bold and existentially important initiative. Thank you to Mr. Ferguson for your incredible work and stewardship of this task force. And of course, thank you to President Trump for his extraordinary leadership.
Yeah. Continue on with
our task force.
Sorry, and the thank yous. Continue on.
President, and providing direction, focus, and determination to the whole U.S. government. It's great to see all of my.
Yeah, I'm just gonna skip like 30 seconds ahead.
Egregious fraud in this country. It is, first of all, true, as the Vice President said, as hard as it is to believe, that for most recent history, which in the case of these programs would be in the history of these programs, if you committed $1 million of fraud or less, you were unlikely to ever be criminally punished in any way at all. And if let's say I was a criminal and all of my friends were criminals as well. Well, simple. We each set up our own company and steal $800,000, since it's under $1 million, and it's not 900,000, so it's not as close, but basically it's still under $1 million, and now we get a maximum of like 6 months in jail if we get caught. I mean, that's pretty easy. For some strange reason in the past, a bureaucrat had the courage to defy that agency guidance and actually bring you to trial and put you in front of a jury. You'd be unlikely to do any real jail time at all.
And think of how depressing that is. Like, let's say you're an absolute patriotic like lawmaker or lawyer, and you try to go after every single one of these fraudsters imaginable. Well, you can only take around like 10 cases a year because it takes months inside the court system. And not to mention, like, what you spend a whole year to get 10 people, and they only got like half of them got away scot-free, and then the other half they only get like 5-month sentences. Think of how depressing that is. You wouldn't want to go after them anymore because it wouldn't be worth it. When there's they are big fish to fry, but unfortunately they don't. Other people don't see it like that.
And
when they definitely
it's
should.
Hard to believe that you could steal hundreds of thousands and ultimately millions of dollars and not do any significant jail time. Again, you can look at the sentences for the Feeding Our Futures fraud, which is one of the largest frauds in the history of any country anywhere in Minnesota.
to see this. And there's a lot of reasons for that.
That's why it shouldn't be states that are prosecuting them. It should be the federals because they need to give harsher sentences. If the state like dishes out 1 month sentences, I mean, the fuck.
think probably the
I mean, federal money is involved. They should have the right to intervene in this matter.
simplest, least conspiratorial explanation is that when Congress was drafting these statutes, they still lived, to use the phrase being used in a high-trust society, and it eclipsed their imagination that there would be systemic, widespread, continual lying, fleecing, and organized crime to rip off hundreds of billions of dollars from the American taxpayer, which is what has happened. So there needs to be strict, clear, mandatory minimums. Because by the time you've been convicted, you have already proven to a jury, this is not a civil punishment, this is you've proven to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that you deliberately, willfully, maliciously engage in a scheme to steal from the American taxpayer and from those in genuine need. And when you've satisfied 12 jurors of that fact and been convicted, you deserve to have a very substantial prison sentence.
What he means by that? Death penalty.
That change alone would be watershed for fighting fraud because it would mean...
And I think you'd only have to hand out around like a dozen death penalties to these fraudsters, and I'd say it should be half and half, as in like half extremely low fraudsters who only stole around like $10,000, and then half to really big fraudsters who stole like millions. And what will that incentivize? It will scare the fuck out of every single fraudster that is in that area, and they will most of them, not all of them, but most of them will drop everything on what they're doing and completely stop. Not to mention, it sets a precedent for the future on that, hey, this is what will happen if you do get caught.
The Department of Justice would be able to...
This is again back to what I said. If you get a death sentence for that candy bar that you stole, nobody's going to be stealing any candy bars.
Through prosecuting a few hundred or thousand cases in a year...
Here, hold up.
...to chill their criminal conduct...
I don't know why I didn't pop up sooner. Anyways.
Whereas right now, no matter how many people you prosecute, you're still left with the criminal element thinking, I'm willing to risk 6 months in jail for $5 million in ill-gotten gains. And we've reached a point, and again, only because of President Trump and the Vice President's leadership is this happening. But we've reached a point as a country...
And thank God for Nick Shirley for helping expose this.
Until we came along, as hard as it is to believe, where we have federal law enforcement in cities around the country who have to conduct weeks or months-long investigations of daycares where there are no children present at all.
Yeah, why the hell do you need to spend 8 months to research on a person if they committed fraud or not for a daycare? When that is for months, not a single kid has showed up to this daycare, and there are tens of these daycares all around that have the exact same situation. Because it's bullshit.
To be able to then go into a court of law and say, no kids on Monday, no kids on Tuesday, no kids on Wednesday, no kids on Thursday, right?
Oh, they just had the week off. Whoa, why was there no kids on in December, in January, in February, in March, in April, in May? Oh no, it was just a few. Well, why is there no kids since? Well, sorry, why is there no kids ever? Like really, it's that fucking simple.
And this is the real thing. We have federal law enforcement officers who then they have to issue subpoenas and search warrants to get phone records, email records, financial records. And what does it all end up with? You go to a jury in Minnesota and you say the defendant has collected $7 million for a daycare, claiming to be taking care of 100 children for 6 months, and we found one kid attended in that entire time, and he was the nephew. So you spend months of federal effort when you...
Millions of dollars, that means. Millions of dollars to prosecute this person. If I spend millions of dollars to prosecute one person, and they get away scot-free, or 4 months in 4 months of jail for getting millions of dollars, What does that tell you? It tells you that it's not financially viable whatsoever. Like the fuck? If I spend millions, I want something out of it. I want that death penalty. But people are too cucked to have that, to enforce that. And this is actually an extremely fixable and easy solution situation. It really is.
Do that, and you're found guilty.
It's so easy to fix.
You belong in jail for a very long time.
Nah, they don't deserve jail. It's too good for them.
I'm almost over my own time here, so I'll just add to the other point the Vice President said, which is on data sharing and technology and integrity, you can solve 95% of this problem with simple technological verification.
And I wouldn't care about this as much if federal funds didn't go towards this. But unfortunately, federal funds do go towards these things. And again, everyone, including me, including you, if you're from America, we all spend money towards this. And I don't want any of our money being spent on complete bullshit.
And data sharing measures that is in technology that was invented 20 years ago. Now, the technology today, of course, is even more astonishing. But if every single person who wanted to enroll in SNAP or enroll in Medicaid or enroll in public housing was in a shared database that the federal government had access to verify age, citizenship, criminal record, other basic biographic facts, that single step alone would save taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars. And you have to ask yourself, why would any politician oppose something so fundamental? We're not even debating eligibility rules, an important but separate debate. We are debating whether or not a person is lying to the government to extract funds for which they are plainly and clearly ineligible.
And there's also a somewhat easy way to fix this. If that person who was elected or put in charge by the person who was elected, that person who was elected should immediately be voted out. If you can't prosecute a person who stole millions of dollars from your community, and you just, again, if you just let it happen, why the hell would you be good for anything else? Like the fuck?
Time has come to implement these reforms. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thanks, Steve. Vince?
And hell, I'd say once they get voted out, they should immediately be tried as well.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. We gather today because President Trump has made stopping the fraud and corruption in our welfare programs a governing priority. Thank you to Vice President Vance, Chairman Ferguson, Stephen Miller, and Executive Director Brady for their leadership in carrying out this duty, and to the members of Congress here for joining in this important work. In the time I have, I wish to offer 10 very practical, common sense, and likely very popular proposals to fight fraud in our welfare programs for congressional consideration.
No, number one, death penalty. Death penalty.
1, all government agencies must verify that every Medicaid...
Man, fuck. Damn, he did not say what I was hoping for. Oh, stretch.
...provider or SNAP retail store is actually legitimate and eligible for payment before any
I think this is extremely common sense, and this isn't even radical. How this is as moderate as you can get, just having just a simple vetting process. I mean, again, this shouldn't be what this party.
payment is issued rather than paying first and checking later. 2,
Yeah, that paying first and checking later, like the fuck.
require criminal background checks and fingerprinting for healthcare providers in category...
What? Why wasn't this established before? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, even then, if you a criminal setting up a daycare center, why the hell would any... Think about it. This is just common sense. Why, if you were a parent, why the fuck? Let's say the criminal is child molestation. Why the fuck would I want to send my kid to a daycare run by a child molester? The fuck? Who the hell want that?
...with high rates of Medicaid fraud and re-verify provider credentials at least every 3 years. 3, require states to verify every welfare applicant through the federal government's free database system that verifies immigration status in real time before...
Why isn't this immediately implemented? Why aren't they just forcing these simple rules? I mean, again, these are just really simple rules to follow. It's complete common sense. Why aren't they just take away the federal money and say you will not get any federal money unless you follow these simple steps.
issuing any taxpayer-funded benefits.
The federal government is the sword. It's the sword. They have the ability to carry out and execute these things. Like the fuck?
4, require states to compare welfare rolls every month.
And they do have discretionary discrimination. They can easily change the rules. The fuck?
Against death records, wage records, and incarceration records. 5, double the number of welfare fraud investigators so that more fraud and corruption cases can be aggressively
No,
investigated.
you don't even need to double the number of fraud investigators. Again, the harsh sentences will easily discourage most of these fraudsters.
And prosecuted. 6, upgrade welfare benefit cards used for food and cash assistance to have secure chip technology with a photo and expiration date.
California is not going to like that one. A photo ID. Ho, ho.
7, prohibit high-risk retailers such as some liquor stores and smoke shops from accepting taxpayer-funded food stamp benefits.
Yeah, the fuck? Why? You can buy cigarettes with Snap? Hold up. Hold up. Alright. Go to chat. Hold up. Can you buy cigarettes? Don't care, I'm spelling it wrong. Cigarettes with Snap? Question mark. He better be lying. He better be lying. Alright, good. Alright, nicotine, alcoholic. Alright, good.
8, end the use of government-issued pre-populated forms to do automatic re-enrollments into Medicaid. 9, eliminate so-called self-attestation, which allows applicants to simply report their own income and household information.
Yes, I make, in reality, I make $300,000 a year, but I only make $1 a month. All right, I know that's $12 a year, so I'm gonna need Snap.
Information on welfare applications without providing documentation, and instead
And no documentation. The fuck?
requiring proof of income and eligibility before benefits are approved. 10, require
It's just a simple vetting process before these things are approved. Why aren't any of these things established beforehand?
state taxpayer-funded Medicaid programs that issue payments to health insurance companies on behalf of people who had already died to stop immediately once a death is recorded and require those insurance companies to return any money collected.
Yeah, exactly. The insurance company shouldn't be able to just keep the money if the person dies. The fuck?
After the enrollee's death. Finally,
Hell, I'd say if they try to keep the money, we fine them 100 times the amount they try to keep.
I suggest that members of Congress call out as corruption the behavior of state and local leaders who refuse to enforce common sense fraud controls.
That as well. And I feel like it's also up to the citizens to again vote these people and retards out of power, and then once they are out of power, immediately try them.
Or purposely embrace loopholes that avoid individual eligibility validation.
That too. And I'd just put that under negligence.
Allow self-certification of eligibility, expand eligibility far beyond what Congress intended.
Sorry, not negligence, gross negligence.
And as a result, trap millions of able-bodied adults into a life of dependency. Fraud steals taxpayer dollars, but such corruption steals something even more precious. It steals the blessings and benefits of work.
It also steals lives as well. It definitely does kill people. I mean, I think that'd be pretty obvious. But yeah, this kills people too.
The greater injustice is not stealing money from taxpayers. It is taking purpose from another human being and diverting resources from the...
Like, think about it. If you steal $200 billion worth of... I would say anything, but but specifically like things that you need for like medical supplies and food. Obviously, it's going to kill a few people, and a few people is really undercutting it as well.
Truly needy. Every year an able-bodied person spends trapped in unnecessary dependency is a year not spent developing skills, earning promotions, providing for a family, serving a community, or discovering what they are capable of becoming. This corruption fraud occurs when public officials knowingly tolerate or design systems that deny people the benefits and
Yeah, I guess it's not funny, but the funny thing is, yeah, the systems are exactly the way they are designed to be, though. They are.
blessings of work because dependency serves
So if it's designed for loopholes and is designed not to be effective, it's designed that way on purpose.
personal, political, or institutional interest. Whenever public officials knowingly preserve systems that deny able-bodied Americans the blessings of work, whenever they choose to look away because dependency serves such interests, people suffer, not because they lack talent, not because they lack dignity, but because those entrusted with public authority failed to act.
And it's not that they fail to act, it's they choose purposely not to act.
Our responsibility.
For example, simple example, Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. I mean, he purposely chose not to act because he feared his fringe and retarded voting base might call him a racist. Yeah, it's racist to go after fraud, and they're not white. Whoa.
Is to root out fraud and corruption in our welfare systems, send people to jail who steal benefits, and make it impossible for public officials to escape their responsibility to establish systems of accountability and program integrity so that more Americans will realize the benefits and blessings of work. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Vince, and thanks to everybody else for being here. We're now going to have a conversation about exactly how we can better work together, about how we can advance some of these legislative priorities.
Stop having that conversation and just start acting. Again, take away all the federal funding of that state and say, hey, you can't have any of this federal money unless you do these simple things.
But we're going to
I think it's quite easy.
Without 100 cameras in the room, so to the press.
And yes, it is indeed legal. For example, well, fuck, I did forget the specific example, but I believe it was the block grants off. All right, so never mind. I do have the example. Alcohol. So the federal government couldn't make a law limiting the drinking age to 20 or raising it from 18 to 21. So they decided to take away the highway federal grants until they again made the laws where they had to raise the drinking age. And so once they did, they then received that federal money.
Thank you for being here. We'll see you soon.
And the federal, or sorry, not the federal government, well, I guess technically the federal government, but the Supreme Court did rule in favor of the federal government here. They can stiff arm the states into those situations. Yeah, this was good.